had so much fun picking that out. So a big shout out to my producer, Marissa Callie, who's with us today to make sure that I keep on track and that you have a great experience as a participant in episode 55. I never knew that we would get to episode 55, but I have to say live streaming was one of those experiments that is a gift that keeps on giving. I've gotten speaking engagements from this, coaching opportunities, and it's been a great way to stay connected in this hybrid world. So I want to welcome all of you from across the globe, and I am so glad that we're having this experimental program called Ask Me Anything. So if you want to ask me anything about what it means to be a mindful marketer, how to get promoted to a senior marketing leadership role, what are the new rules of work, anything is game. So you've been here before, most likely, and know the kinds of topics that are most popular. So before we get started, a few pieces of housekeeping. The first one is that we're still seeing hybrid work making a real mark for our members of the marketing growth leaders, as well as people who need to come together, innovate, and solve problems. It does come with it some sense of isolation. So if you are a marketing leader, you're either an aspiring CMO or you are a CMO, I invite you to apply to the Marketing Growth Leaders community. We are now celebrating a decade together, and our members continue to rack up significant revenue improvements over their competition, greater self-confidence, and deeper connections with their key stakeholders. So if you're curious to learn more, make sure you go to marketinggrowthleaders.com or drop me an email for questions. Another thing I want to do is pass this along to our sponsor for a brief announcement. Thanks to Marvia, our sponsor for the Mindful Marketer Livestream. And now remember, we want you to leave your comments and your questions in the chat and tell us today where you're coming from. Where are you today on this chilly Friday afternoon? By the way, it was Valentine's Day here in the United States. I hope you all had some time to be with the people or the person that you love. Speaking of love, I love to take your questions right now. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about some of the questions I've been getting lately. And as we go through this, be sure that you share your burning question. We might even have a couple of surprise visitors joining us today. So with that, let me start by one of the questions I hear pretty often from CMOs whom I'm advising. And that is question number one. Lisa, how do I prove the value of marketing? I get that question a lot. Now, we've been coaching and advising chief marketing officers for well over a decade. And, you know, that's just one of those questions that never goes out of style. So the first thing that I encourage people to do is not very sexy, but it does help you uncover what is the value of marketing. It can start with something as simple as building a service level agreement. I like to start with sales because I think sometimes marketing is the dumping ground for all new projects and assignments. It amazes me that there are CMOs in the world whom I've met who end up just getting things piled on their plate. There are CMOs who are also in charge of HR. There are CMOs who also carry a significant portion of revenue targets for their organization. I've even met CMOs who are responsible for the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in their companies. It can be overwhelming. So what I say is start small. Start with a key set of initiatives. Start by having a basic plan, which could be a service level agreement with your sales organization. Start to demonstrate that what you do is fueling healthy growth for the organization. It should contain 7 key questions or answer 7 key questions. Number 1, if you are collaborating with sales, and I hope you are, number 1, who are the points of contact within your organization and within sales? Make sure each of those teams outline in the document what are their goals. It's always good to see how well do my marketing goals map out against the sales goals. Are they in harmony or are they completely in conflict? Number 3, what are our content strategies and goals to support those key initiatives? Number 4, what are the initiatives, again, that you want to achieve both in sales and in marketing? I think I got my counting messed up, by the way. I'm not counting well today, but I'll start again. Points of contact, specific goals that you have for the organization, organization-wide goals, especially around growth, certain amount of traffic, web traffic, marketing qualified leads, demos, revenue goals. What are the top goals in that area? Number 3, what are the content goals to support those key initiatives? Number 4, what are the top 3 goals for sales? Number 5, what are the top 3 goals for marketing? Are they harmonious? Do they move the needle on those top 3 organization goals? What are the accountabilities? So, in other words, what if you don't meet your goals? My friend Guy Kawasaki calls this the pre-mortem. So, what will happen if you don't meet those goals? What will sales do? What will marketing do? And finally, what will be your communication channels? Now, we are living in a whole new world here. So if you have a service level agreement of some sort that you developed 2 or 3 years ago, it may not really work for you anymore, because now we have 3 methods of communicating. We have asynchronous channels, we have virtual channels, and of course, we have now returning some back to work in-person meetings and communication channels. So as you fulfill your commitments in this value exchange, how are you going to communicate? Who's going to own those communication channels? And how frequently will those communication channels be updated? So those are some things that I want you to seriously consider as you try to either demonstrate your value or revamp how you define value in your organization now that the world of work looks very different from pre-pandemic times. Okay, that's a lot of talking. Let me see if we have any people have checked in yet. We have Shane joining us from Washington, D.C. with a question. Come on down, Shane. Welcome.
Thanks, Lisa, and congratulations on episode 55. It feels like only yesterday that you were on episode 1 and sort of building and launching and everything else. So it's pretty incredible, and to see all the good insights and content every month is pretty fantastic as well. So my question, building off what you were just talking about there, and we touch on some of this with the marketing growth leaders in the peer group, but I know that you're talking to a lot more marketers even outside of that, and executives and CEOs on a day-to-day basis. So my question is, what are marketing executives in particular, what are they doing to set themselves up for success? There's a lot of movement, as you talked about, change, particularly on a tactics level. But what are those best? What are the best marketing executives doing to set themselves up for success?
Well, I'm looking at one of the best marketing executives, so that's easy. I can say I have many hundreds of examples now, having advised so many chief marketing officers, and even before that, vice presidents of sales. I think there are some common themes, Shane, that come up no matter whether you're working in a B2B company or a B2C company. One is the CMOs I've advised are just excellent listeners. You know, they're constantly on the road, talking either on the road or on the virtual road, talking to customers, talking to their stakeholders. And I really want to give a shout out to Brian Chesky, the co-founder of Airbnb. You know, recently he announced that he would start working from various Airbnb properties all over the country. So he goes and he lives in a given town for 2 to 3 weeks to really get a sense of how the Airbnb hosts run their businesses, right? So he's not hanging out in the ivory tower. He's out visiting the people who make Airbnb such a high performing stock and company. And I really admire that. So that listening quality never goes out of style. The other is they are just really good at spotting trends outside their industry. So one of the things I admire about you is you proactively reach out to members of the marketing growth leaders and you meet, whether it's virtual coffee or in-person coffee. And the people in our community where you've interacted, you all come from different industries and different company sizes. So I think that's another way to set yourself up for success, because you never know when that spark of innovation is going to strike and where you're going to find it. And then the third right now is absolutely self-care, setting yourself up for success. You know, self-care used to get kind of a bad rap a few years ago. It's like, yeah, well, if I have time, I'll take care of myself. Now it is a condition, it is table stakes for being a high-performing leader, and making that time for sleep, good diet, and of course, exercise. So those are ways to set yourselves up for success. Was that helpful, Shane?
Yeah, that's great feedback, Lisa. And I think it builds on the clean sweeps exercise that you have a lot of your clients do as well, that is probably worth sharing with the broader community too.
Yes, in fact, that's a great idea, Shane. If anyone's watching right now, or if you're listening to this through the Mindful Marketer podcast on any of your favorite channels or platforms, all you have to do is send me an email to lisa@lisanirell.com and ask for Clean Sweep. I'll be happy to send you a copy. It's publicly available, and boy, it's pretty revealing.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Lisa.
Shane,
Thanks for your time.
Great to see you. Thanks for popping
Cheers.
in.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. We have another question coming in and another visitor who wants to join us. It's Michael Taylor joining us from Atlanta. Hi, Michael.
Hey, how are you, Lisa?
Great. Thanks. What's your question today?
Well, it's kind of related to what you guys have talked about, but my question is, how do you get your company, especially the senior management team, behind a serious marketing initiative when everybody seems to have a very wildly different definition of marketing, and in some cases uninformed or flaky? You develop a serious strategy through experience, and you're ready to do the initiative. And I often find that there's these dueling definitions and ideas about marketing that can derail it or just make it really hard to pull off. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. So how do you get your company's senior management behind an important marketing initiative? Is that your question?
Yes. And the context for it is there are often wildly different definition and ideas about marketing, some of them uninformed. Yes.
So give us an example, Michael, of what you would consider a serious marketing initiative, and what kinds of clients you work with where this might be relevant.
Well, I would say that a serious strategic marketing initiative has very specific outcomes and very specific targets and goals that can be measured, right? Some of them are conversions, some of them are, marketing leads, sales leads, and then ultimately revenue. And they're seriously derived. The kitchen's hot, there's skin in the game, that the investment in marketing needs to produce something. To me, that's the definition of serious. And also that it is derived from an experienced marketer, a CMO, somebody who's a true CMO who is getting in the hot kitchen and defining a marketing investment from which is expected an outcome, right? So that's it. And then I often find you will have even senior people who think marketing is, distributing golf hats with a logo on it, just crazy wild definitions.
Yes, you are so right. There are a multitude of definitions of marketing, and it gets even more confusing in the world of B2B marketing, because
Yes.
sometimes, there's a lot of confusion about what marketing should include. I mentioned this earlier in the live stream. Sometimes people confuse marketing and sales, which doesn't help, or they think that marketing is at the behest of sales, and they put the CMO as a direct report to sales. And then that really limits and narrows the true potential of marketing in an organization. So oftentimes there are a lot of key questions that have to be answered around, like you said, what is marketing? How do we define it as we need it here in our organization? So to get back to your question, today, marketing is very much just like any other organization or department. And when you're taking on something significant like a rebranding, or going after a brand new customer segment, or completely revamping your demand gen strategy, any of those are examples of pretty significant change initiatives. The three things I always tell my clients is, number one, answer these questions. Number one, what is the burning platform? In other words, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this marketing initiative? And it could be an aspiration. Like if we talk about Airbnb right now, they're doing extremely well. I could imagine that their marketing initiatives right now are about going from being really good to being even better, because their burning platform is they are on a path to continuous improvement. So that's the first question, is what is our burning platform? Now, in a burning platform conversation, you've got to ask, what bad things are going to happen if we don't do this? Are there consequences? The other is,
Right.
who's going to be part of I call it the guiding coalition. Who are the people in the organization that will help us stay on track with this? And if they catch somebody doing something right in the organization that advances that vision or that goal or that initiative, how do we celebrate the small wins? And then the third is, how can we quickly experiment with something to demonstrate that this works? So I remember in my early days of working for a large CRM company that was purchased by Oracle, the large organizations that got into the CRM business, Michael, they were going into large companies and recommending big intergalactic change initiatives. and they never anticipated the amount of resistance. So how it went down is a big investment bank I worked with would go in and they'd spend $10 million on software. And they say, well, we're probably going to need some professional services help to install it, but they completely forgot the human element. The investment bankers who said, why are we using software? I like my index cards. Why are we doing this? And so the board of directors would have to get involved to push back and say, we actually don't know why we're really doing this. We don't have people throughout the organization supporting it, and we don't fully understand the consequences of not doing it. So we've got to get clearer on that messaging. So it's almost like you have to create a marketing strategy for your new marketing strategy. So
yeah, that's true. I think the burning platform would be a goal that everybody would agree on, so that the how is not the debate, but it's rather making sure that everybody's focused on the marketing outcome and goal that they all want. And I think that maybe the different definitions of marketing is why you have such a pile-on of tasks and roles that end up in marketing. Because if you don't understand strategic marketing role, you'll start handing other things off to it, right? You'll start handing just HR and the things you mentioned. So yeah, I think that's good advice. Burning platform, a burning goal that everybody agrees on, and then of course the trust in the senior marketing team to get it done, right? To deliver on it.
absolutely. And there might be a situation where the company is not really ready for that big initiative. They may not have the internal talent to really make it work and make it happen. And that's okay, given today's tight labor market. And what was it? 4.5 million people left their jobs and got new jobs in December. So, there are chances, there are a lot of open positions in some of the companies watching this right now. So you have to be ready to look for that talent to help you launch this initiative from outside the company. So
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us,
Thank
Michael.
You, all right. Take care.
You too. So I'm reminding everyone that this is a new format. It's called Ask Me Anything, and this is your chance to post your questions in the chat. You can also drop me a note after this, and I actually will go back and revisit the live stream and make sure that if you are watching the replay and if you are posting a question post-show, that I will get back to your questions. Also, a lot of you may not know, this is episode 55. Yes, it is. And we are really hoping that you watch our future shows. So don't miss another show. Get on the know ahead list by going to themindfulmarketer.com. We do this in concert with our friends at LinkedIn Learning. I am a member of the faculty, and you can also get a lot of your marketing leadership questions answered by taking the Effective CMO course on LinkedIn Learning. We have, I was just checking the other day, Marissa, it looks like we've had 13,000 people complete that course. So thank you to everyone. Let's see what other questions we have. All right, we don't have any new ones coming in yet, but again, I want to share with you some questions that people sent me prior to today's stream. We have a question with the number of people that took new jobs in December, 4.5 million professionals. LinkedIn's been a very busy platform for a lot of you. I will tell you that another question I'm getting a lot these days, I have a new role. I'm a new VP of marketing, or I am just appointed CMO in this organization. What can I do to quickly prove my street cred, my street credibility? I recommend a couple of things. Again, very similar to what I said to Shane earlier. One, and these are what my best clients do. Number one, go on a listening tour. Make sure a significant portion of your time is split between your customer visits and your stakeholder visits. My best CMOs are fantastic at spending time with and developing a trusting relationship with their CFO, with their head of HR, with their head of sales, operations, customer success. You all have to work in harmony. I also invite you to take a look at my book, The Mindful Marketer, where we have each chapter lays out a strategy for each stakeholder in your organization. So those are some things to consider. The other is to look for what I call low-hanging fruit. So once you are starting to wrap up your listening tour, what are some of the most recurring or most common themes that you're hearing? And are you able to get to the root cause of those persistent issues? So in the early part of your new role, you're going to be spending a significant amount of your time in one of three buckets. So for some of you that have been on my live streams in the past, you might have heard this. There are three places you can invest your time as a leader. The first one is spending all your time spinning your cycles, fixing yesterday's problems. The second bucket is your inbox management. I call it inbox management. You can call it Slack management, whichever communications tools you use. And that is where you essentially are spending all your time moving from inbox emails to meetings. And that's kind of, a spin cycle that is hard to get out of without conscious, mindful effort. And then the third is designing the future. So before you can get into the innovative portion of your career in that new company, you do and probably have some housekeeping you need to take care of. And the goal is to address those chronic issues as quickly, as swiftly as possible, and to establish your credibility as a person who is very conscious and aware and capable of spotting challenges or opportunities that have been ignored and being able to also act on those insights. Now, I'm a fan of Janusian thinking. Now, the opposite of that is what a client told me recently. They work for a large technology company. They're the CMO. And in that company, they recently added a new CEO. Now, this CEO understands the industry, was promoted from within. There's only one problem. They've been there for about 11 months as the CEO. And, the CMO is over here trying to make a mark. They are relatively new. The problem is that the CEO is not making changes. They are not moving the needle or tweaking the dials at all. They come from within the company, and they're very, they announce that there will be changes at some point, but almost a year now has passed and people are not seeing anything really change. So it makes it very difficult for that leader to be viewed as an insightful and action-oriented person. So, you only have so much time to really make your mark and build your trust. So keep that in mind. So we have another comment that I want to mention, and then we will get on with what's coming up in March. It looks like we don't have any additional questions right now, but I want to remind you that as we get closer to March, we have a very exciting guest coming to join us on March 4th. And Marissa's going to mention this and show you the great news coming up on March 4th. Yes, my friend of 20 years, Guy Kawasaki, will be joining us to talk about the art of being remarkable. Yes, it's possible. Now, remarkable means, how can I be a remarkable marketer? And what does it take? How could we get this opportunity to speak and ask questions with someone of Guy's caliber? But we've done it. We've done it. So Guy and I started collaborating about 20 years ago on our books. I remember sitting next to him at a TAG networking event in San Diego, California. And he said, you know, I need help with my new book called The Art of the Start. And I raised my hand and I said, I'll work on your book if you work on my book. And that's when our friendship started to blossom. So he's going to be joining us to talk about what are the common qualities of remarkable marketers. What is the state of content strategy nowadays? And also, what do you need to do? Who do you need to be to compete in the new world of marketing? So make sure you are following me here on LinkedIn. Go on over to my profile on LinkedIn and register for that event. You will not want to miss March 4th, 1:30 Eastern Time, to really learn the art of being remarkable. I am so excited. I love working with him, and I always walk away just a little bit wiser. So as we wrap up today, I want to share with you some mindful moments from today's show, and also some mindful moments and consideration as we go into the end of Q1. Here's what I'm walking away with. The first is your role, and this, I want to thank Michael Taylor for really heightening this question. Our role is not to be the best at marketing. Our role today is to be the best at leading effective change. That is a whole other set of skills that we may not have signed up for as marketers. However, some of us are ready to step into that. And if you want to be better in that area, you need to surround yourself with great people who are conspiring for your success and have themselves successfully led important strategic changes in their organizations. The second takeaway I want you to consider is I'd like you to start looking at companies who are reframing what it means to have a marketing influencer strategy. There are a couple of things that happened in the last couple of months, and I think it really has long-term implications for you, whether you are a B2B marketer or a consumer goods marketing professional. If you take a look at two companies, number one, Yeti, they have grown year over year, 28%. How did they grow? One of their strategies is influencer strategies. But what's interesting is they have poo-pooed influencer recommendations from people like Matt Damon and Kim Kardashian. Instead, they are, according to the recent article in the Wall Street Journal, they are doubling down on influencer strategies with professional athletes doing some pretty cutting edge things, whether that's deep sea fishing or snowboarding or other types of extreme weather sports where the Yeti products are being actively used. And clearly the market is rewarding them. Another one to look at is Victoria's Secret. We all kind of remember growing up with the Victoria's Secret angels and these artificially emaciated models who would strut the runways. Now, late last year, Victoria's Secret started to replace those angels models with real women models. I call them real women models, and it's been very refreshing. They just announced a young woman with Down's syndrome from Puerto Rico is their newest model. So I applaud them for taking risk and truly putting their DEI money where their mouth is. I give them kudos. So as you design your influencer strategies, instead of looking for those superstar CEOs to be your endorsement figures, perhaps you have customers who would be better suited in that regard. And the final thing I want you to think about is, where are the lines? Where are the lines between your personal values and politics and your company's purpose? We had Ron Carucci on the show with us 2 weeks ago talking about his great book on telling the truth. And it's called To Be Honest. But I think we are at an inflection point as marketing leaders where we have to really look at where do we draw the line between sharing our own purpose and our own political views and those views of our company. This is playing out right now very loudly in the media. If you read the recent article in The Hill about Levi Strauss's Jen Say, who was a brand president there, she walked away and rejected a $1 million severance package because they wanted her to sign a non-disclosure because she had different opinions on her children going to school than Levi Strauss. So something to think about as you move into bigger roles is, where am I going to share my political views? How will I share my political views? And if you are a CEO, what does freedom of speech mean? And what latitude do we allow our team members to have to express their personal or political points of view? This is going to become a bigger issue, and you have to be ready for it. So those are my thoughts, the mindful moments. I'm so glad you were here with me today. Make sure you sign up at themindfulmarketer.com. We don't want you to miss a show. Number 56 coming up March 4th with Guy Kawasaki. Get outside this weekend. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy your weekend. And we will see you on March 4th.